They are finally changing some of the rules that needed to be changed for a long time. It is official. The ABC, who are the ones who dictate the rules of the sport, have removed 12-6 elbows as a foul. For the first time in over 20 years, fighters can finally throw the 12-6 elbow and not be worried that it's going to shatter their opponent like a block of ice. That also means that Jon Jones can appeal his loss to Matt Hamill and officially be an undefeated fighter. How much does this change the game? Somewhat. The angle of the elbow can be used now in different kind of grappling scenarios, different kind of positions. The full mount is definitely going to be way more effective for fighters on top, and even fighters in the full guard where they're going to have to lean forward a bit before throwing the 12-6 elbow. And a big thing is, fighters don't have to be so worried when they're trying to finish an opponent after hurting them that they're going to get disqualified for throwing 12-6 elbows. They can get a lot more, I guess, reckless in a way, even though fighters shouldn't get reckless in those moments, but they could just start going ham with elbows as long as they're not hitting the back of the head. So no more of this 12-6 clock or determining if it's 1-7 elbow or 12-6. None of that silliness is going to be part of the sport anymore. So that's one of the rules that they are changing now, or they have changed. It's not changing, it's actually done. And the rule is going to go into effect on October 1st of 2024. The second rule, and probably even bigger than the 12-6, is the definition of a grounded opponent. This is what it says: kneeing and or kicking the head of a grounded opponent. A fighter shall be considered grounded and may not be legally kneed or kicked to the head when any part of their body other than their hands or feet is in contact with the canvas. That is huge. So a fighter can have both hands on the ground, both feet on the ground, and can be kicked or kneed now. No more of this playing the game, I'm reaching down, now I'm not reaching down. I'm reaching down, now I'm not reaching down. You can't kick me, now you can kick me. Silliness that was part of the sport for so long. It used to be so infuriating to see a fighter shoot a takedown, it getting defended, they're in a bowing or sprawling position now, and they're just squirming back and forth, trying to grab at the opponent's legs, and they can't even get kicked or kneed or anything. It was so annoying to see that from grapplers. And they would do that on purpose because they knew that the rules were helping them in that position. But we all know in a real fight, they would never do that stuff. That's why I always wanted grounded knees and grounded kicks. But what the old rules did was it allowed fighters to spam takedowns, grab at the legs, because now the only way to get at them is to grapple with them. If a fighter shot a takedown and it got defended, the only thing the opponent can do now is grapple with them. Try to get them in a submission, go to the ground on top of them, reverse the position or something like that. There could be an argument that the fighter could just back away, but there's nothing stopping the grappler from sitting on the ground and crawling up to them. The grounded opponent rule made the fight so unnaturally favorable for grapplers. Now, the reason why I'm talking about it is because it's still a thing. Fighters can still do that as long as their knees are on the ground. I'm glad they made the change to the grounded opponent, and now what would have to happen is a fighter would have to have a knee down or something like that, or an elbow down, instead of playing the game with their hands. And also, before we had the whole brushing the ground with the fingers, or you would have to have your hand weight bearing. It does state what a grounded opponent was before, just to show the difference here. So this is what it was before. Any part of the body other than the sole of the feet touching the fighting area floor, they could just say the ground or canvas, to be grounded, the palm of the hand, a flat palm, must be down and or any other part must be touching the fighting area floor. A single knee, arm, not fingers, makes the fighter grounded without having any other body part in touch with the fighting area floor. At this time, kicks or knees to the head will not be allowed. Fighters like Aljamain Sterling and Muhammad Mokaev will not be able to play their game. This also goes for finishes, like if an opponent is trying to finish the opponent, they must be down on their knees or their elbows to not get kicked or kneed to the head. And this is naturally going to be a big thing against wrestlers, right? Because wrestlers who shoot takedowns and miss, just having a base on the ground without their knees down, they're not going to be able to do something like that, you know? And also fighters can now carry or pull a fighter upward to get them off of their knees and start kicking their knee in their head, doing some other creative things like that. Now, it's not perfect, but it's definitely a better direction because I think grounded knees and grounded kicks should be allowed across the board. The only place it gets kind of iffy is if they're on the ground against the fence, because they have really nowhere to go. It's very hard to avoid a stomp in that kind of position, you know? Because we don't have grounded knees and grounded kicks across the board, it still means fighters can play the game a bit. Like, I know we joke about Aljamain Sterling now being completely compromised in his fighting style. It's not necessarily true. What he did to Henry Cejudo, he can still do, right? Because he was on his knees when he was playing the grounded opponent thing, and he can still do that even with the rule change. But the reason why I think that grounded knees should be allowed at any part of the fight is because it's such a natural advantage over someone who wants to be on the ground like that, you know? Having an advantage to be on the ground is such a unnatural position. If you're in that bowing position on the ground, there's no reason that you should have an advantage over your opponent. That makes no sense. And I could understand that soccer kicks are dangerous and stuff like that, but there's a reason why they have the position to throw a soccer kick. They did something right to be in that dominant position. Either the wrestler shot a takedown and missed, you know, he didn't get the opponent to the ground. That's a big thing for the guy who defended it. Huge for them, because we know how big wrestling and takedowns are to win a fight. It's only natural then when a wrestler doesn't succeed with their takedowns that the opponent can soccer kick them for it, you know? But again, these rule changes are going to be effective in October 1st of 2024. Now, what does this mean about the states? Because we know that some states, they adopt the new rules and they don't. Well, I think it's still up to the individual states on what they want to do. If they want to go with the new unified MMA rules or not. And if that's how it is, we can kind of guess which states are going to go with it and which states are not. For an example, the states that haven't gone with the new scoring rules and they score it like they did back then, they're probably not going to adopt the new rules. They just like outdated MMA rules. I don't know why they don't just all adopt the new scoring system, the new rules for 12 to 6 elbows and grounded opponents and all that stuff. And hopefully they make more changes to especially fix the scoring. It's super important. There's too many fighters that are getting robbed. Like, some stuff they could do is a change to the 10-point must system. That would be such a big change, though. I don't know if they would do that. It would completely alter the way that we see fights. Instead of that, they might be able to put more people to score instead of just 3. They can have like 5 or 7 people to score the fight. They could try open scoring, not make cuts and lacerations as important as they are for impact of effective striking. More details, more examples of what effective grappling is, because people are very confused as to when effective striking and effective grappling trump each other. You know, when does the grappling aspect become more important than the striking aspect, and vice versa? I know that it says the closer you get to finishing the fight is the one who's going to win the round, but more details and more examples will definitely help with not only the fans understanding the fight, but even the people scoring it. Some people seem to have a problem with the vagueness and how it determines what is important in scoring a fight. But you have to have some kind of vagueness, because the more specific something is, the more fighters will have to do that exact thing, you know? So I understand the vagueness and maybe some of the arbitrary scoring system, but I think they could make it more detailed and more specific, especially when it comes to effective grappling. When you read effective striking, it's kind of easy to understand. It's the grappling part, and when that trumps the effective striking part, that gets kind of confusing. That's actually the main thing that gets kind of confusing out of the entire scoring system. Maybe they have the fight judges at home watching, maybe they have some ringside to see how that changes, but the perspectives are going to be quite different. I've been to a live event, and of course I watched from home as well, and I would say I saw more of what was going on in the fight when I was at home. It's harder to see it live, in my opinion. Maybe some people see it differently. Maybe they scored the fight easier in the arena, but I wonder if the judges scored it maybe just watching the screen, if that would change it a bit, you know, if that would actually be better for the fighters. They probably do have a screen right in front of them, but when you're in the arena live, you can't help but watch the fight in person. And maybe if they're watching through the fence, they are missing some of the sequences, some of the impact of the strikes and stuff like that. But there are definite things they can do to improve the scoring system, in my opinion. I think it's definitely better than boxing's. Boxing's scoring system is incredibly arbitrary and super vague, like way more vague than MMA. And that's why we see the crazy scorecards in that sport, because one of them is scoring for defense more. One of them is scoring ring generalship more. One of them is scoring aggression. You know, they're scoring different things because they're all kind of equal in a way, or at least that's the way that it seems when you read about it. So I do definitely like the rule changes. Good on everybody on the committee. Good for the ABC to finally get rid of the 12 to 6 elbow. It is not more dangerous than the other elbows. In fact, like the regular elbow where you're smashing down on the opponent with their body weight behind it is more powerful, and it's always been. The only thing tricky about the 12 to 6 elbow is the angle that they throw it that's harder to defend, because they're hitting down with just the point. That could be a lot harder to defend that single small area of surface. So leave in the comments below, what do you guys think about the rule changes? Do you guys like it? And what else should they go to? Which fighters do you think are going to be affected by this the most? Of course, guys like Aljamain, of course, other wrestlers that like to lay and pray and play the game against the opponent, but wrestlers are also going to benefit with the 12 to 6 elbows. So there's a bit of a pro and con for specific styles here. And I'll see you guys in the next video.